After the massive Gupta and Harsha empires collapsed, the Indian subcontinent shattered into pieces. By the 8th century, Bengal descended into a brutal political vacuum, torn apart by warlords fighting for scraps of territory. But around 750 AD, a rare historical event took place in the region. Instead of continuing the endless bloodshed, the warring feudal lords came together and held an election. They chose a leader named Gopala to rule them. This collective agreement provided an immediate, undeniable mandate. Almost overnight, the consensus stabilized the region, putting a hard stop to decades of anarchy and violence. Winning an election among volatile warlords is one hurdle, but securing a lasting dynasty is another. How does a newly minted ruler maintain order without relying purely on a massive army to keep everyone in line? The Palas moved to secure their authority by pivoting toward the large-scale patronage of education and culture. This commitment to intellectual life served as a calculated geopolitical strategy, providing the long-term stability and regional dominance their predecessors lacked. Looking at this map of the Indian subcontinent, we can see the empire's aggressive push into northern India under Gopala's successors, Dharmapala and Devapala. By widening their footprint, the Palas captured control over highly lucrative international trade arteries and administrative networks. The wealth flowing in from this international commerce was staggering, but rather than sinking it all back into endless border wars, the Pala kings systematically diverted those riches directly into massive public intellectual infrastructure. The booming economy and sprawling borders were the means, not the end. They functioned as the financial engines engineered specifically to underwrite a cultural revolution. The Palas directed a massive portion of the state treasury into the maintenance and expansion of Buddhist monastic and educational institutions. The crown jewel of this initiative was Nalanda University. These sprawling brick ruins and the massive central stupa prove the immense architectural investment required to maintain a global hub for scholars worldwide. And the Palas didn't stop at maintaining ancient sites. They expanded their network by constructing entirely new campuses like Vikramashila and Odantapuri. Inside these walls, monks and students codified highly complex Indian philosophy, advanced sciences, and deep Buddhist theology into formal curricula. These centers functioned as arenas for intellectual diversity and rigorous debate. Because they welcomed foreign scholars, the reputation of the Pala Empire spread rapidly across continents. By establishing themselves as the undisputed center of global learning, the Pala kings wielded an ideological influence that commanded respect far beyond anywhere their armies could physically march. The Palas anchored this ideological influence in the physical world by exporting distinctive, portable works of art. Workshops across the empire mass-produced bronze sculptures. With their intricate, ornate details, these pieces demonstrated the empire's advanced metallurgical skills and were frequently used as high-status diplomatic tools across Asia. The region also developed a specific tradition of black stone carving. The complex, multi-armed compositions became a sought-after aesthetic standard for neighboring rulers. Complex philosophical and religious knowledge was physically carried across the Himalayas through meticulously illuminated palm leaf manuscripts. As you can see, vivid, colorful religious paintings were embedded directly alongside the ancient text. The movement of these objects integrated Pala aesthetics into the local traditions of Nepal and Tibet, establishing the visual foundations of their religious art. However, political realities eventually catch up. By the 12th century, a combination of shifting trade routes, external invasions, and internal rebellions began to sap the empire's military and administrative strength. This structural weakness allowed a new power, the Sena dynasty, to rise and decisively dissolve Pala territorial control over the Bengal region. But while the physical borders of the Pala state vanished, their cultural exports endured. This complex Tibetan Thangka painting is visual proof of how Pala aesthetic traditions and Buddhist teachings survived and evolved in broader Asia, long after the kings themselves were gone. The palace proved that while physical borders eventually dissolve under new dynasties, a state that anchors its identity in global education and art secures a legacy that survives the collapse of its government. Next time, we'll explore the dramatic political shifts that swept Bengal under the incoming Sena dynasty.